Hello, and welcome back to part two of life. Do you know what part you're on? Probably not. Are you on age 17? Are you on age 18? Is our life just in parts? Is our life just in years? Nobody knows. Maybe it's in seconds. What is a second? How did we decide what a second is? Who out here was like, one, and they counted how many air exist? I don't know.
How much air?
How much air? Like, long did the air come to take out? Anyway, I'm here with Inaya, and yeah. So Inaya,
Yeah.
you have taken philosophy, yes?
Yes.
So I, Cameron King,
Mhm.
which is my name,
Yes.
would like to know what is what is cool about being part of philosophical discussions?
I like it because there's so there could be one concept or one theory or like one philosopher who says something, and then like 10 people can take completely different things from that and have completely different thought processes when it comes to that, and hearing the differences and the conversations between the people with the different perspectives is just so interesting to me.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
think that's what life's all about, right? Finding different
For sure.
perspectives and then trying to comprehend them.
Mhm.
So start me off. How does Mr. G start this class out? Like what are some of his like philosophers that he gets you to play with ideas
So
of?
what he does in the beginning of every period, he kind of talks about what's going on in the world or something like
Okay.
that,
So it's
and
like
he kind of
news,
yeah
Mr. G,
yeah
news.
yeah it's something like that,
Yeah.
and then he switches it to a
God, I wish I had
philosopher.
him for history.
Yeah, me too. I didn't
I wish I
have.
had him.
And
He doesn't believe in tests. He just has
he doesn't believe in homework
conversations.
either.
He's such a cool guy.
Yeah.
God, next time I'm gonna get a podcast with him.
Oh my God, he would be
I'm gonna
a
talk
really
to
cool
him.
guy to have a podcast with.
Okay.
Yeah. Wait. Oh yeah. So
But
then
anyway, so what?
yeah, and then he kind of leads it into a conversation of how a certain
There's some
a,
hammering going on.
a certain philosopher would the take they would have on
Yes.
how that, yeah.
Okay. So let's start the ball rolling. What's a philosophical standpoint of a philosopher? Pick anyone. Who's your favorite?
I forget the names. I remember what we're talking about right now is morals and ethics kind of, and the different theories on that. And there was utilitarianism was what we were talking about right now, and how morality or ethics is based on how many people are affected by it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So there's, and then the utility rule where it's you stay away from pain and you seek pleasure. So that's morals and ethics basically.
Stay away from pain, seek pleasure.
So, and then there's act utilitarianism where it's if there's Robin Hood.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So he's stealing from the rich and giving to the poor.
Yes.
Okay. And you can steal from one person but give to 10 people.
Yep.
That would be act utilitarianism, because more people are gaining pleasure than gaining pain. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense.
But then rule utilitarianism, it would be against rule utilitarianism because you're not following the rules of the society.
Okay.
Because you're stealing. That's what we're kind of talking about right now.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Is it interesting having to go from Mr. Quick to Mr. G, knowing or just learning about these different concepts of the philosophy of the biology of the brain theories, and then what people have done with the brain theories.
Yeah, I guess it is a little weird. They kind of are two different.
I know they're two different things.
I know, but they're very one's more sciencey, one's more you could tell one's I don't even know. It's one is you can clearly tell this is just something a guy wrote all this down. And
yeah.
then the other one's like, okay, no, this
like
is
this can be
this
talked about in a textbook. This can be talked about.
Yeah.
This has to be like a discussion.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are some of the things that people say when discussing if a tree falls? Like, what does it make a sound? What are some of the base arguments?
Well, there are some people that are like, well, if there's no one there to call it a sound, is it a sound? And like people are like, there's no one there to call it a sound, so therefore, did it make a sound? Because no one would be there to call it a sound. You know what I mean? I hear that one a lot.
If no one's there to call it a sound.
Yeah, because there are humans said, okay, these vibrations, like what you said, is a sound. So if there's no one there to hear it and say, oh, that was a sound I heard, was there a sound? You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
I hear that one a lot.
Interesting. This is a tricky one to wrap your mind around. I feel like when you think about it, and there's no one to if there's no ear to receive the sound, because like what is sound? Like if you really think about like what sound is just like if you look at the science of sound, it's just vibrations made by physical exertion. So it's that is heard. Like I feel like of course there is going to be a sound if a tree falls in a forest and no one hears it, right? The sound is going to happen, but do we call it sound if there's no ear to receive the sound?
My thing is like, just because no one's there to validate it doesn't mean you know what I mean? It's not valid.
Yeah.
Because whenever I think of like philosophical, what's this called?
Jibber jabber.
Jibber jabber, whatever. I kind of apply it to like real world things. Like, okay, so like we take this concept, like, okay, is there anyone here to hear it? Does it still exist? Like, if there's someone crying in the bathroom, but no one's there to acknowledge them being sad, are they still sad? You know what I mean? Like, obviously they're still sad because they're sad. You know what I mean? There doesn't need to be anyone that says, oh yeah, you're sad, or I hear you crying, so therefore you are crying. You know what I mean? So my thing is, like, just because there's no one there to say, oh yeah, I heard a sound, doesn't mean it wasn't there. Because you could say, like what you're saying, if there's no one there to, like, call it a sound, is there, like, a sound? Like, yeah, it's still a sound. Just because someone's not there to be, like, to call it that, doesn't mean didn't, because it still exists. You know what I mean? My thing is, like, just because someone isn't there, it still happened and it still existed. So therefore it is. Does that make sense? That's my stance on it.
Interesting. I like it. I like it. So say it again. It's like because.
So if someone was there or not, it still happened, and it still made those vibrations because it fell. There was an illusion of movement, whatever. Okay. So just because someone wasn't there to validate it and to acknowledge it and call it a sound doesn't mean what happened didn't happen. You know what I mean? Like when something falls, it makes a noise. Just because someone's not there to say that was a noise doesn't make it less valid. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So it's like what you were saying, where it's like, just because no one's telling you exist, it doesn't mean you don't exist.
Yeah, exactly.
You still exist. Like, it just is.
Yeah, exactly.
So I like to think about it is one thing I heard. I'm getting really into my boy Alan Watts. Alan Watts is the homie. I love that guy. But basically, what his idea when he's talking about this, when he talked about this question in one of his lectures, it was like we don't know what life is unless we know what death is. We don't know what white is unless we know what black is. It's all about like the dualism of perception, and it's like we don't know what sound is unless we know what quiet is. So then it's like there has to be, and like we don't know what sound is unless we know what like no sound is, and we don't know like what what we don't know what sound is unless we know like what ears do. I guess I don't know. This is kind of me spitballing now.
Yeah.
We don't know what sound is unless we know what ears are. Well, I guess not. I guess you can kind of know what sound is without knowing what ears are because it just kind of is.
Well, you might not know what sound is, but you can like experience it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So, what are some other of the philosophical like questions that Mr. G kind of like opens for debate in his class?
There was one we were talking about. It's like if there's like a really like horrible man, like Nazi guy, who has really good, or if you're a doctor, if your neighbor is like a horrible like Nazi like horrible man, but he has perfect organs, and there's 5 people who are matched to him, who are dying, but they're amazing people and they're really really good people and they need organs. Like, do you kill him and give the 5 people organs so they can live long happy lives, or do you let the 5 people die and then let the man, like the horrible man, live his life?
That I guess on the surface that seems pretty easy, huh?
Mm-hmm.
So on the surface it seems pretty easy, but then you're still like killing someone. So I guess the argument against would just be, just do nothing, and then you don't have to feel like it happened. But I guess like
yeah, but you're the doctor.
So when you're the doctor,
so you would be responsible for the 5 people dying.
For it, you would have to say yes, because then it'll cause more pleasure than pain.
Yeah, but there is the argument where it's like that guy, he's not responsible for these people's lives. Why should he have to sacrifice himself? Like, why should he have to die?
Why should he have to sacrifice his own? And also, like, the doctor, why should the doctor have to make that decision of whether...
And, like, the guy doesn't have a say in it, so why would the guy have to, like, give his life for these 5 people who he doesn't know? That's what we've been talking about. That has been stressful to answer.
I see. So, I guess where the morality comes in, it would be in our cultural understanding of what good morals is. If this person kills Jews, then I guess the positive energy would outweigh the negative energy in my own mind.
Yeah.
So that would help me justify it if I were the doctor. Is that what did other people say?
Everyone was very conflicted because we were kind of looking at the lens of like utilitarianism and like the act and the rule. They're like, well, 5 people are being saved, but you're still murdering a person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas like if you did let the 5 people die, you wouldn't necessarily be murdering them. You just you just wouldn't be able to help them. You know what I mean? Whereas like one, you're literally taking someone's life.
Yes.
So that was the whole thing, because killing the guy and letting the other 5 people die are not the same thing. You know
letting 5 people die and killing someone is not the same thing.
Yeah, because one, like, if you don't have the ability to keep them alive, whereas you kill someone else, like, that's not the same thing. I think a lot of people in my class were like kind of conflicted on that, whereas like, no, like, you have a way to save them, but you're not doing it, so that's killing them. But I don't see that as killing. If you're a doctor who doesn't have the organs for 5 people, I don't think that's killing. I think that's just the inability to save someone, which is not the same thing as killing, taking someone's life.
Interesting. So that. I like it. Yeah. I like that. What's been the most like polarizing debate that you've had in that class? One where it really gets people hot and bothered.
Oh, shoot. We did have one. I forgot what it was. But everyone was like... There's, like, a lot of, like, the really stupid ones we get. Like, is pizza a pie? Something like that. Like, that one, everyone was very heated about that one. It's all the dumb ones. But, there was one, I think today, someone said something, like, really alarming, and everyone was like... Because, we did this thing where we were talking about the coronavirus, and how whenever there's like an outbreak or like a virus, then the social norms and ethics and everything kind of like just goes out the window and things like that. And then we started talking about the guy who died in Chinatown because no one would help him because they thought he had the coronavirus. And then Mr. G was kind of comparing it like, okay, so if you saw someone in the hallways who died or whatever, or who was choking but you thought he had the coronavirus, would you go and help them? And the guy said, no, I wouldn't, or something like that. Or no, it wasn't like if they, no, sorry, it was a guy who just fell down. Would you go and help them, or would you walk by if you didn't know he had the coronavirus or not? And there was a guy who's like, no, I would just walk past him, like I wouldn't care. And everyone was like, what do you mean you wouldn't care? Like he's like a classmate of yours. He was like, whatever. I'm like, but he's not my problem. And that one was like, everyone started freaking out about that. They're like, what? Yeah. Like
What?
me and Kristen were like, did you just say that? Yeah.
What's the vibe in that class?
I think I feel like we share, when it comes to philosophy, we all kind of share this similar views about everything. So there's not much like debating whether, like I remember there was one debate where it's like, how would you define a friend? That one people kind of, because people weren't considering imaginary friends as real friends, and there were some people that were like, no, that's like, they're just as meaningful as friends, or they're just as valuable as like what you guys would, whatever. But yeah,
Interesting.
so I remember that was a big one in our class.
So what did people define as a friend?
I forgot. This was at the beginning of the year. It was kind of like someone who brings you joy and is there for you, or something like that.
Someone who brings joy and is there for you?
Someone who's like there for you and like brings you happiness, things like that. Yeah. Someone
who is there and brings happiness.
Yeah.
Is it like...
I think that's what it was. But yeah, but it had to be a real person. And they had to be, and it didn't, I remember we were talking about how it didn't necessarily mean that you gave it to that person, but that they gave it to you. If they're your friend, then they do this for you. But you don't necessarily have to be their friend, if that makes sense.
You don't have to be their friend.
Yeah.
So friendship is not, like it doesn't have to be mutual.
Well, friendship does. But if someone is a friend, I feel like friendship is kind of like a relationship. So like that's two people, right? Like if two people are friends with each other. But if like, let's say like I'm friends with you, so I'm going to be there for you, but you're not my friend, so you're not going to be there for me.
So then it's a one-way friend.
Yeah, that would be like a one-way. I think a lot of them aren't, or at least, I don't know. But yeah, that's how we kind of define it.
What did you define being there meaning? What is being there?
Just like supporting someone. I don't know. I think a lot of people have limits, so which makes it confusing, because in our English class, Miss E was asking like, would you like ride or die for your like people in your life? And someone was like, if my family killed someone, I'm gonna turn them in, right?
Yeah.
So like people's limits kind of vary, so it makes that like question kind of hard.
That's a trip.
Yeah.
Would you turn your family member in if they killed someone?
It would depend why they killed them. Okay. If they just killed them because they were bored, then yeah.
Yeah.
But if like if they killed someone out of like self-defense, maybe not. I don't know. This is hard question.
It is tricky.
How about you? Would you?
No.
You wouldn't? You wouldn't turn them in for any like circumstances?
I guess if it was like, if it was out of rage, then yes, I would probably turn them in, because like, can't be having that. But you know, that's a tricky thing, because then you're also that's in saying that you're agreeing to like take this person out of your life when you're like, but like I know them the best, and like I know they like this might be a fluke, so like, I would probably convince myself that it's justifiable regardless of what the circumstances were, just because for my own sake, my own well-being.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And how do you feel people like? What kind of vibe have you been getting from social justice as of recent? Like, because with Miss E, like, kind of like voicing her own like own input, and then it feels like she's get her own input of like making the class like personal for everybody individually. Does it feel like there's what like a weird dynamic between the class and Miss E?
I don't think so. I think our class is kind of, I don't really know how to explain it. Like at the beginning of the year, I kind of felt like weirdly close to our class for some reason. And I think there's a lot of people in our class that feels that way. So I personally, I don't feel that way. I don't know. Do you?
The only times I see it is when I do detect some like weird energy whenever she'll make it she'll try to engage us in a discussion that we don't really take seriously. I kind of get what you're saying when we're talking about like feeling weirdly close. Like I do like I feel that like they're like this is a class where I talked about it or I wrote about it. I talked to myself about it. You know, that's the great thing about writing. You get to talk to yourself and you see it. But I was just like, education. What's the deal? All classes except for this social justice class are designed to negate intellectual and civil conversations. And I said, like, what I find fascinating about this is that due to each of our individual upbringings and our reason for taking the class, we have a unique variety of similar ideas and also some split on issues. And I like how, like, I like the beginning of the class, like when we were doing like the police brutality unit, like, and we were just thrown into it. It felt like a really, like I felt tight. I felt like I was in a tight circle of just like really cool people, and when people were expressing their own ideas on it, Miss E, this is my favorite part about Miss E. When someone would say something, they would throw a point in the air, and Miss E would she hears them, and she explains what she hears. She explains what she hears, and then you hear it back, because a lot of the times people would just spout off information without really thinking about it, and so she would say, "This is what I'm hearing," and then they would be like, "Oh, let me change the no, like I mean to say this," and that's what I value the most out of like, and that's what I feel an educator should do, is like pull and really like get you to think deeper, and that is like the energy I got. And then now, what the only thing I detect is I detect like a certain pushback from that, or just like a change in like the way Miss E talks to us in a way.
I do feel that.
Does that make sense? Cool.
Yeah. I feel like she's, like when you're saying like the pushback, she's definitely like, I feel like I don't want to like say like less tolerance, because I don't know, like the whole conversation I had about the Confederate flag stickers and the pride flags, she kind of like attacked me for like no reason.
Well, so how did that conversation go? It was
I was basically just talking about how everybody's entitled to their own opinions, and I'm not gonna say that they can't put a Confederate flag up. Yeah. Because then they could just turn back around and say, I can't put like my pride flag up, right? Basically. And she was like, well, one is about slavery. I'm like, yeah, true, but like their thing is like,
it's rooted in like religion and like,
I was basically just saying like, yeah, like they could say that, but like now they're saying like, oh no, it's like Southern pride or whatever. They're
that
like,
makes sense.
Yeah.
I think you were looking at it through more of a philosophical lens, and then she was looking at it through more of a social justice lens.
Yeah, and I was kind of just like, well, because because we were kind of talking about how like certain things, how they could be problematic, and I didn't understand why ours was problematic because it was basically just like putting stickers and like stuff all over your water bottles about your political beliefs. I'm like, I don't see a problem with that. I think everyone has entitled to do that. Like obviously, like a Confederate flag, it could make people unsafe.
Mhm.
But there are some people who can turn around and say, "Oh, your pride flag is like anti-Semitic, whatever, whatever." Like they could say whatever, not anti-Semitic. What's it called? Like anti-religion. What's
Homophobic.
No, not homophobic, but
Wait,
it's
what
like
are we talking about?
they're like no, it's like they could turn around and say like the pride flag, it offends their religion or offends them. What's the word?
It offends the sanctity of marriage.
Anyway,
but
but like, it offends. Like they could just turn around and say that, and she was like, "Well, it's not the same." I'm like, "I know it's not the same, but she was kind of like, she was very much like."
She didn't kind of get what you were saying.
Yeah, I think like it got to a point where she did understand, but she kind of like was yelling at me. I was like,
"Oh, really?
You don't remember that?" She was like, "It's not the same. It's not an opinion. It's like it's slavery." I'm like, "Yeah, I know that, but people like that's the history. But even if and then I started like, okay, so even if the Southern Pride isn't even a thing, it's still someone's opinion could still be that slavery is okay. And obviously, I'm not for that. But if I want to say my opinions, I should give someone else the same right to have their opinion."
Yes.
She's like, "Okay, that's fine." But she like,
absolutely.
yeah, and I don't think she would have done that at the beginning of the year, the way that she did it. And I was very freaked out by the whole thing.
Yeah.
I was like in front of the whole class, I was like,
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But yeah, and I think when it comes to like how close we are, because I remember we were, especially like during the whole police brutality thing, because that was at the beginning of the year. I think like at least for me, I have a very conservative family, so whenever I have political discussions or political debates, it's against my dad, who is very much a conservative. So it was always like someone on one side of the spectrum and like the completely opposite side.
Mhm.
Whereas like for like the police brutality one or whatever, we were kind of having debate-ish kind of things, but they were all like on the same side of the spectrum, just different ideas that came from it.
Yes.
So like you were able to like connect everything to each other, which I've never experienced before in my life because I only ever talked to my dad about politics.
Oh yeah.
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 So I feel like that's why a lot of us got close, because I think I was talking to people and like a lot of other people's experiences were like that. So I think that's why we got close. So
I agree.
Yeah.
I heard. I felt it was really like eye opening. So it's like and very humbling type deal. Yes. Absolutely. Your group when we did the like what's wrong with it was like what's wrong with these forms of like social like activism, right? And it was like merchandise was one of yours.
Yeah.
And I just was interested in what kind of like things did you find on like the problems with like just apparel like
so for us, we literally, I think because we were kind of confused about it, because I genuinely didn't see a problem with that at all. Like if someone wants to say this is my political opinion, then they're allowed to say that. And then after we were talking for like 10 minutes, she came and she was like, "Well, actually, I kind of wanted you guys to talk about like the hypocrisy of it, like how some girls could be like, or some people, I should say, some people could be like, oh, don't use straws, like whatever. They could have stickers like save the planet, but they use all this plastic and they're leaving their carbon footprint as big as like everyone else when they're preaching this whole thing." So we didn't really talk much about that because she didn't leave us any time. But the entire time we were just kind of discussing like how we didn't see a problem with people wearing stuff. So I genuinely don't. Like if you want to say that you believe in this, then you have the right to do that. I don't think that should be problematic.
Totally. Do you have any strong opinions on the education system? Like the idea that we have to go through this for like 12 years and then like 4 more. And then it's like for 8 hours a day.
I think there should be, like, I know there are some schools where they have school for like 3 months and then they take off 2, and then they have school for 3 months. It's like a continuous thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think the way, like, 8 hours a day for, like, 5 days a week, I think making it, like, the main part of your life is a little iffy. Because there are some people who graduate at, like, 15, 16, like, that are homeschooled.
Mm-hmm.
So they're perfectly capable of making it a shorter time. They just don't. I think the whole American education system is very flawed. I think it's like the fact that our superintendent makes $200,000 a year. Did you know that?
I didn't know
That's
that.
a lot of money.
It's a lot of cash dollars.
That's a lot of money, and like $200,000 a year, and like I don't have to talk about how like you know teachers get paid. Like that's just like a known thing that they don't get paid very well at all.
Yes.
And then the superintendent gets $200,000. That makes no sense to me.
Well, the superintendent definitely has like to deal with a bit more.
Oh, for sure. I'm not saying that he shouldn't get paid more,
like that much,
but that much is ridiculous to me personally.
Yeah.
I think that's ridiculous. I don't know for me, and it's just like I don't know. I think, especially like with our school, is they kind of care about reputation more than the education.
Like reputation.
Like
as in...
they let like 500 kids from Doherty transfer here, and then and that affects like because the more population the campus is, especially like from Doherty, it's like oh the more kids that's gonna get into 4 years, and then that ups our percentage wise. Right?
It makes our like...
It makes our reputation better. The more students that come in, especially from Doherty, because they're considered to be smarter. Okay? And then the demand for it to go to Cal goes up, and then it helps the housing around it, right? It increases the profit in that, right?
Yeah.
And then but the class size is like way up, right? And the teachers are having trouble like teaching the kids. Like my econ class last semester had 39 kids in it.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. There wasn't enough desks in our classroom. She had to get rolly chairs, and then they sat at her desk, or like people had to share desks.
Really?
Yeah. There was 2 kids that didn't have desks.
Yeah,
and
that's
because what they did is like so each teacher has like a certain amount of students they can take, but it's not per each classroom, it's just in general, and she teaches like a class that's meant for like a smaller group, so it's like I think it's A1E1 whatever, but there's like 10 kids in her class, so like the 20 that should be in her class they just distributed to other classes, so that she got screwed over, and like people who probably needed help, she probably didn't have time for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think the American school system puts reputation way above profit, especially like with the college board. That is so corrupt.
What do you know about like the admission process?
The admission process? I heard, I don't know if this is true. But
rumor has it.
They take, because they get so many applications that they kind of just take a stack and they just throw it away.
I've heard that too.
That's what I've heard. I don't know if that's true. It makes sense to me though.
Yeah.
Because they get like thousands and thousands and thousands and like of essays. They can't
they're
possibly
all they're
read.
all like online, right? So like when we talk about stacks, like they're not physical stacks.
Yeah,
so do you think
they like organize it based on like they just like run it through a filter, and they're like if this person doesn't have above a 3 point whatever, then they just like delete them?
Maybe, I guess, because they can't possibly read through that many essays. You know what I mean? Especially like Stanford.
Maybe they could. You know, like you get like. Okay, how many people are up like on an admissions board? Let's like do the math real quick. So, how many people? So.
We'll look at Stanford.
On the
Doesn't say anything. Oh. No. Here, I'll just see how many people apply a year.
Yeah, with the UCs, it's like for UCSB, they admitted like 27,000, and that's like out of that's out of
93,000.
yeah.
No, but I think another thing is like, I know this happened a couple years ago where they over enrolled a bunch of people,
Oh yeah.
right? And then the next year they couldn't accept that many people. So last year I saw like there were so many people got into UCLA. There were so many people that got into, what was that one's name? Berkeley. Like a bunch of people got into Berkeley last year. That means this year they're not gonna let they're gonna let like so little people in this year, which kind of sucks. Like it rotates every year because they over enroll, and then the next year like all those people are screwed because they have less of a shot.
Oh jeez.
Yeah. So I think that's also flawed because they just care about money. The more they can take, the more, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I know there was like a whole group of friends last year that got into Berkeley. Like all of them got like.
Oh really?
Yeah, like there was like a group of like 7 friends that they all got into Berkeley.
That's so weird.
And then there was a bunch of other people that got into Berkeley. And I knew a bunch of like DVC transfers that got into Berkeley too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So what does that mean, though?
So that means like there's gonna be less people this year that get in. There's gonna be significantly less people. But last year, yeah, because they over enrolled.
Why?
Because they let so many people in last year that they can't accept as many people this year.
Oh, because they have a cap.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that happened like a couple years ago with my friend. But last year Irvine didn't accept. I only know one person got into Irvine.
Oh,
so
okay.
that they might over enroll this year. We'll see.
So it's weird. It's like all about luck.
Yeah.
Mostly.
I think it's luck of the draw.
Okay. What do you know about what's that word for when they like have to meet quotas and like they do it by race?
Oh, I forgot what it's called. That's not allowed though. I forgot. I know you're talking about.
What kind of conversations have you had around that?
I remember we had.
Like it's not allowed.
It's not allowed anymore.
But
they started
because the Harvard, they got sued for it.
Was it Harvard? Yeah. I remember there was someone else did a thing on it.
Yeah. It was called. It's called. Talk. Just explain your own experience, and I'm gonna think.
Yeah. I don't really have much experience with it. The only experience I can really say is like I remember when we when someone dressed up as a KK at our school.
Affirmative action.
Yeah, affirmative action. So people were kind of using it as we were having this whole debate where because I was like we were just talking about racism, and I was like, well, people think that we've made all this progress, and really we really haven't made that much progress, right? And then this white guy raised his hand. He was like, well, I think we made a lot of progress. I think minorities are still like really like just as equal as white people with affirmative action. Like white people were getting duped for minorities. I'm like, one, that's not allowed anymore, and two, it would just, I was like, so the only experience I really had with talking about it was to say racism isn't a thing anymore. So not the best, but it's not allowed anymore anyway. So that really didn't make any sense.
Interesting, because like that kind of sounds like the philosophical argument of like because what did he say? He said racism's not a thing anymore.
He was basically, because I was saying how like we haven't made that big of a progress. Like people like think that we are so progressive but we're really not. We haven't made that much progress. And he goes, no, we made a lot of progress. Like minorities are just as equal as white people. So not that racism didn't exist, but like
it goes. It kind of goes to the philosophical thing of like, is there good racism? Like to compensate. Like, do you think that's a thing? Like, is being racist against white people like? Of course, it's not good, but is it necessarily bad in socio cultural context?
If you ask me personally, I think that when you do say like things that are insulting about white people, like they don't really have like the hundreds of years of
They don't have the moral
oppression.
high ground.
Yeah, they don't have this, like, they weren't oppressed. They were never oppressed. They're probably never going to be oppressed. If there was a time where white people are oppressed, then obviously those racist comments wouldn't be, okay. But because there was literally no oppression for white people, especially in this country. So I think, for me personally, this might be...
What about the Italians?
I guess, yeah, for sure, definitely. But when yeah, but I think you can't really compare.
I know, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
and like the Irish.
Like the systematic racism that's still in the system.
It's really strange. People are just it's all rooted in fear, right? The Okies come pull up. They're like, guys, my crops are all dead. And they're like, please, we need jobs. We're literally starving. And then everyone's like, nah, get out of here, you Okies. Or like Irish people, like, guys, we got no more potatoes. Please let us in. And then America's like, no. It's very, very strange, the idea that we get of nationalism.
Yeah.
Like, where does that come from? Just the idea of identifying with a country. Do you feel that you're patriotic, Inaya? Would you identify as a patriot?
Well, whenever someone asks me that, I kind of like think about the conversation Bristol had with us at the beginning of the year, like junior year, about how like being a patriot, being patriotic doesn't necessarily mean like you are agreeing with everything your country's doing, but it's you wanting the best for your country.
Yeah.
And like for me, I definitely want the best for my country. I want to see, a completely like accepting America. Like I want to see like a perfect America. So like I would call myself a patriot because I want to see that in the future. You know what I mean? I don't necessarily agree with everything America's doing now with its leadership and everything. But yeah, I would consider myself a patriot.
It's interesting, people's different views on that. You know what I mean? Because like some people view it as like being proud of like your country and like everything that it stands for, and it's like being proud of the values of your country. And I feel like that's like a bunch of baloney, because like we don't get to control the values. Like these are already things that have been here before we're born. Like we're just born into this. So when we're thinking about like what makes a patriot, a lot of people are like, well, respecting the military makes us a patriot, because that's what's made people patriots for all of America up until now. Like where it gets really tricky is when you think about like the Civil War, where it's like, wait a minute, I'm a patriot because I'm fighting for what I believe is right for our country. Then you're like, nope, I'm a patriot because I'm fighting for what I believe is right for our country. And it's like, well, who's the real patriot then? You know, it's like it's such a strange subjective thing. But then I guess in that case, it's just rooted in fear for.
Because when I stood up, remember when Miss E asked us like to separate when I stood up and said I was a patriot, the whole class was like, Inaya, why are you standing up? Yeah, I think it's a very subjective term, I think.
So, like, that's strange. So, like, think about that. Why do you think there was, like, kind of, like, that idea, personally? Like, why do you think people were like, whoa, Inaya, you're a patriot?
Because for me, I think a lot of people think it's, like, you live and die for your country no matter what. You know what I mean? And, like, I think for me, like, I love America enough to want to see a better one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think especially for me, it's because, like, the story of how my family did come to America is not the prettiest, it's not the greatest, and for me to say that I hate America, or for me to say that I'm not patriotic, I feel like is just an insult and just a slap in the face to my grandparents who did have to risk a lot coming here. So, and like the stuff that they had to go through, on my worst days in this country, will never experience, hopefully. So I think for me, I am patriotic because I do love America and I do appreciate me being here and I do have gratitude for that. But I want to see a better one. And I think a lot of people, just like I said, it's like you agree with America no matter what. You know what I mean? If Trump's president and he does all this stuff, you agree with that and you'll fight for that and you want that. And I think me standing up, I think especially because we were talking about like the Muslim ban, like right around that, and I'm Muslim, and we were just talking about all that, and like me standing up like right after that conversation, people were like, what the heck, you're supporting the Muslim?
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I'm not supporting the Muslim ban, but
I'm
I
supporting
care.
America.
I care about America enough for that I care that I don't want that to happen. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I think that's why a lot of people were very confused because
Makes a lot of sense.
yeah.
Well, what was your family's story of coming here?
So you know, like the whole story of like how India and Pakistan split, right? So
I really don't.
So basically, the Muslims and the Hindus didn't really like each other. They had like a war because Pakistan and India were like one.
Oh, I just learned about that on John Oliver last night.
Yeah,
Okay, continue.
and then so the Muslims kind of went to Pakistan, and the Hindus went to India, and they split, right? So I'm Muslim, but I'm Indian, right? And then my family stayed in India, whatever. We didn't like move. And there was a whole tribe of like Hindus or whatever. There was a whole group of Hindus that were going around killing all the Muslims. Okay, and then my grandpa was at work, and my grandma was at home with my dad when he was like less than a year old. And then they were gonna come and kill her. And then her neighbors who were Hindus. So this isn't all Hindus. Okay, this was just that one group. But there was a Hindu neighbor, and then she hid in the closet for like 10 hours, in her closet for 10 hours. And I remember she was like feeding my dad cough syrup so he wouldn't cry, so they wouldn't know that she was in there. And
who was coming in?
It was like this Hindu like group who were trying to find her and kill her. And my dad.
Was it like the Nazis? Like, did they like have names? Where they like
no,
they
it
knew?
was more just like
It was
a
more
group
personal?
of people who hated Muslims. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because there was a lot of tension between Hindus and Muslims at the time. It still is, like, the tension is still, like, very much there. But this was, like, right when it split. Like,
how did they, like, know where she lived?
It was, like, a small village or whatever.
Okay.
Like, a small little thing. So then they were finding her. And then when they left or whatever, the neighbors drove her to the train station and met with my grandpa. And then they drove to the airport. And then they flew to Canada. And then flew to the Bay. And then Fremont, when my dad was, like, 4. So, that's the story of how, like, I'm never going to hide in a closet with my child hoping I'm not going to get killed.
Yeah.
Because of, like, I'm the likelihood of that happening is very slim. So I think for me to say, like, I hate this country is just, like, a slap in the face because she did have to risk a lot coming here.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
And they had, like, no money or anything. Yeah. So, yeah. It wasn't in America, it was Canada, but they moved here.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Hindus believe in multiple gods, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they do.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Why did India and Pakistan split?
Because they hate it was just like to resolve the conflict, the Muslim and Hindu conflict. So like the Muslims went to one place and the Hindus went to one.
If there's like a bunch of different religions, then like does the amount of people that subscribe to a religion make that religion like more right?
I feel like it makes them more validated. You know what I mean? Because not as like validated. I don't really know how to explain it. It's like
the Mormons feel like they're right.
Yeah.
For real, even in gold tablets, and it's like.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I would see why someone who was a part of like a big following would understand why a big following made it more believable, I guess, or more right. I would understand the thought process. I don't know, but at the same time, I also understand like why someone who's a part of a following with like a very small group would also think that they're right. You know what I mean? Like I don't think. You know what I mean? I don't know. It was a tricky question.
Do you remember like, was there a moment when you were like, wait a minute, there's other religions?
I think for me as like someone who isn't a part of like, I don't know. I think for me because I was definitely like different. You know what I mean? Like I was one of the ones that are like a different religion. Like I've always, you know what I mean? Like celebrating Christmas in the elementary school classroom, that was a normal thing. So for me, it was like, oh, I always know there was different religions.
Okay.
Because the other one, it was more normalized than mine. So, yeah. Was there a moment for you?
Well, with me personally, my dad was raised Jewish and my mom was
Mhm.
raised Catholic. So like we kind of just like celebrated Hanukkah and we celebrated like Christmas, and it wasn't really much deeper than that. So there was not that religion is not necessarily part of like my family's identity. So it was never really something that caught me off guard. But I just know that there's like other people that like have like been raised Catholic and then they like meet someone who like believes in spirits and not Jesus and they're like what? So I was just curious if that was there was a moment for
I
you.
think maybe if I like did grow up Christian, it would be a little different, but I'm not like in a normalized religion, I feel like. So I've always like
In
felt
American society.
in America, yeah.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Why is the differences in religion rooted in so many conflicts?
I don't know. I think
Is it
I don't know.
Is it just like
especially with like the monotheistic religions because the books
they kind of all have similar ideas?
They're all like the same thing, pretty much. They all say the same thing, but I don't know, different languages and different. Like I said, like there's different variations of the same story, but the story still like just because there's different variations, it still says the same meaning in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't really understand, especially between those three. Because yeah.
What about with like the Shia and the Sunnis?
Yeah, that
why
is.
what's the deal there?
I'm gonna be completely honest. So I'm Sunni,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and the Shia, they do like for me as like when I was learning about stuff that they did, it was just a little scary to hear about. They do like just scary stuff, like I would. So people
in the
like,
name of God.
Yeah, like it's not like it's like what they do is like I'm not like talking bad about them.
Okay.
That's not what I'm doing. I'm just saying some of what they do. I don't really know what it's called. I don't know much about it at all. But it's like there's like this thing with knives where they hit their themselves with knives to like feel the pain that the prophet did, like Muhammad did. That and like they do that once a year or something, and they just like cut themselves. Like that when I was like I don't even know how old I was, like 11 or 12, and I saw it like on TV, and I was like, oh my god, what the heck? So that is like they do like with like Sunnis, they don't do stuff like that. You know, they're not very. I don't really know how to explain. I'm not talking bad about them. Like I don't understand the concept, like the conflict. I mean, like that doesn't really make much sense to me. It was just they just do things like that, and the Sunnis are like, whoa, settle down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's pretty much the conflict.
That makes sense.
And then they're like, what? Why are you doing that? That's ridiculous. Like and they just. Like on Muslim Twitter, oh my god, there's so much conflict between the two.
Muslim Twitter?
There's brown Twitter, there's Muslim Twitter, there's like different parts of Twitter. Yeah.
Twitter's strange.
I love Twitter.
And what's the difference between a religion and a cult? What's the biggest difference?
I don't know. I say that I ask this question all the time. For me, I don't know. What's the definition of the two?
I don't know. Let's consult Google. Are you gonna do the definition of cult or are you gonna do definition of religion?
I'm saying cult.
Okay, definition of religion is the belief in and worship of a superhuman controlling power, especially a personal god or gods. Ideas about the relationship between science and religion. That's using it in a sentence.
Okay, so the first definition is a system of religious veneration and devotion directed toward a particular figure or object. So that's kind of there's religion.
Sounds pretty similar.
Yeah, but there's religion in the definition.
Oh really?
Yeah, the system of religious veneration. or a
What?
misplaced or excessive admiration for a particular person.
Misplaced.
Or thing. Yeah.
So
Or excessive.
who's to say it's misplaced? Who's
like
to say
what's it called? Like
it's excessive?
The Kool-Aid. Like don't drink the Kool-Aid. What's that one called?
Jamestown.
Yeah, that one. Well, that one's a little. But like, who's to say if they're wrong? If they did all kill themselves. So
I guess.
I
don't know.
Yeah. I don't know, dude. Cause like sometimes cause in Islam like we recite things together, and like whenever I think about it, like if someone walked in on like the 10 of us reciting something together, they would think it was a cult. You know what I mean?
Well, all religions recite things. You ever been to church?
No, I haven't.
I've been to church for just Christmas, and it's like you sing together, sing
but
songs.
I feel like that's like in English though. You know what I mean? Like if someone who didn't know anything about it, and like they just heard us all recite like Arabic.
In America.
Yeah, in America. And they all and they didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And they would be like, "What is this? This is like some witchcraft or whatever." And then I think about that all the time. I'm like, but like, what is it called? I don't know. This is something I thought about many times.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't think there really is a difference. I think it's just like one is seen as bad and one is seen as good.
Do you think it has to do with numbers?
No.
Like, you don't think the size has anything to do with
it? Because, like, Scientology, some people think that's a cult.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But, like,
it's far smaller than most main religions.
Oh, for sure. But I think there are definitely, like, smaller religions.
Wait, so is Scientology a religion? Or is it a cult?
Well, what's the difference? Some people think it's a cult, some people think it's a religion. Do they think it's a religion?
Do the people in the religion think it's a religion?
Because don't they, like, bow down to, like, some alien? That's what I heard about.
I think that's the flying spaghetti monster. I'm kidding. But that is a real religion, but...
Scientology?
It's the flying spaghetti monster.
It is?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Look up the FSP.
Okay.
FSP is legit.
Okay, I will.
But, I don't know. Does Scientology worship aliens?
No, there's like this one, like, higher being in space. That's what someone told me.
Do Scientologists believe they are descended from aliens? Scientology.org. I think they're very similar, like religions and cults, because like they all have their scandals and they all have like their abuse of power. Like the I think it depends on like the framework. I think the framework of a religion is what differs from the framework of a cult, and like the longevity. Like you know how America is set up, and like we've been around for a while, like we're pretty stable. Like Mormonism or like Scientology, like they don't have that like stability of like religions such as like Catholicism and like Christianity.
Yeah, because I think about like Catholicism and like things like that. It's like they look at a book, and especially like with Islam, it's like we look at a book, and like everything that's been like laid out in the book, that was like something about like years ago. That's what it is. But like with Mormonism, like the rules change.
Yeah.
Like there's like a channel, and the guy speaks on it every Sunday or whatever. And you watch it every Sunday. I think. Okay, this could be wrong. But like there's we've decided that this is how we're gonna do things.
Yeah.
And I always think that's so interesting. Like, there's not that there's anything wrong with it, but I just think it's interesting that like what you said, like there's like they just what they say goes. You know what I mean?
But that's the same thing with like the Catholic, like the Pope. He's like,
okay,
like 20 years ago, it's like gays are bad, but then it's like now he's like gays are okay.
Really?
Mhm.
But isn't there like extras from the Bible that say no?
Well, they changed. Like
they just changed the Bible?
Well, they didn't change the Bible. They changed their like view on the Bible. You know.
That's very interesting. See, like with Islam, like there's like none of that.
It's very strict interpretation.
Very, like, yeah, I mean, obviously there are some rules for interpretation, but like, not like they don't vary by much. You know what I mean?
They don't vary by much.
Yeah, like there could be some interpretations, but you ultimately do the same thing.
Well, wait a second. If the Muslims believe in the Quran, then where did the difference in Sunni and Shia come from?
I think it's tradition and how we practice it. You know what I mean? Like. In how we pray,
so it's not.
It's like
it doesn't have to do with interpretation. It just has to do with like technique.
It's just how, pretty much. It's just how we practice it.
Okay.
And they're like, oh no. And I think the whole argument is like, oh no, the way you're practicing it isn't right, but the way I'm practicing it is. But like, it's all the same. We all do and believe the same thing. It's just the way that we practice it and execute all of it is a little differently. That's what I'm saying. Like the way we pray, like some people put their hands up like this and some people put it down. And like it's like you're still both praying and saying the exact same words, but you're just standing differently. Like that's like the different variations of. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And they're like, let's murder each other
Yeah.
over it.
Yeah. It's
weird.
Mm-hmm.
Weird. That's where it gets confusing because it's like when we talk about between a cult and religion, I feel like some people would argue that cults, it's like people get hurt in cults. But then it's like physically, like they do like physical crap to their body in like the name of like a person or object. But then it's like, what is war? Like they're physical in the name of a person.
Yep.
Or God. It's pretty wild.
Pretty
wild to think about.
But I love religions. I always like think they're so interesting. Like Satanism, that's so interesting to me.
What is Satanism?
They just like they bow down to Satan instead of God, and they think God is like I don't know. They think God is like how we perceive Satan. They perceive God like that, which is interesting.
So I don't understand.
Like you know how when
So they just like view Satan's beliefs as like their God and then God
like
as
you
their
know
Satan.
how like Satan didn't bow down to Adam.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So everyone like thinks Satan is like evil when they believe that he just embodies free will.
Oh.
But everyone else perceives it as evil. Yeah, it's very interesting. It's so
Satan
interesting.
is free will?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Like there's some people who are like, no, he just is like disobedience just, to like his creator, whatever.
Uh-huh.
But then they're like, no, he understands his worth and he wouldn't bow down, whatever. Yeah. Like
Whoa.
it's so interesting to me.
Does Brown Twitter talk about it?
No.
Okay, never mind. Oh, what's your other favorite religion? Flying spaghetti monster is pretty cool.
Really?
It's a flying spaghetti monster.
I don't know. I like cults too. Like
I like cults too. I like how you say that.
I like weird things like that, and like just like weird stories.
I like cults.
They're kind of sad, but you hear about that family that like, what's it called? What family? It's like they kept like 7 of their or 12 of their kids like locked up in handcuffs like their whole lives, and like one was like 3 and the oldest was like 27.
Oh jeez.
Yeah, like that stuff interests me. It's kind of weird, but whatever.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
I agree. Whew. Wow. This has been a lot of talking.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to cap it right here?
Sure.
Okay. Killer. What's the funniest thing you've seen on Brown Twitter?
I don't know. I don't think you'd understand any of it.
Just say it anyway. Let's see if I get it.
I'm trying to think. It's more just like about food and stuff, and about how parents treat us. It's just like traditions. It's kind of like not so much like funny. It's more just like relatable. You know what I mean?
I see. Hashtag relatable.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's just a place where people can go to relate.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. That's what the internet should be used for. Not bullying people for assassins.
That whole account.
Oh jeez. Oh jeez Louise. Assassins. What a concept. Can you just tell me your thoughts on just... This will end it. Can you please express to me your thoughts on this social construct that we've created and like how it's put strains on like friendships and like nobody can like trust each other anymore?
I think it is weird how into the game people were. I am included in that. I was very strange when it came to it, and like it's weird because after the first week I didn't care about it at all. I think it was just like everybody was so hyped and into it that everyone else was like, you know what I mean?
It was like piling on.
Like after the first week I was like, I don't really care.
That's cool.
Yeah. But I don't know, it's strange. I think it's just people like to win and they just like to have that, you know, they want to be the top.
Yeah.
So they're all like, this can make me the top. So, even though I don't even know who won last year, so it can't be too important.
Yeah.
Do you know who won last year?
No.
Yeah. So.
Well. Yeah, I just find myself I just was saying it is the perfect test of the strength of the relationships that we formed in high school. It's just like, hey, we good? It's like,
no, like people were getting mad with each other.
They were getting really mad. It's
yeah.
just like a lot of like selling each other out. That concept is like where it really came to the psychological component. It's like, do I want $15 or do I want to screw over my friend?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or no, not. Do I want $15 and screw over my friend, or do I not want $15 and not screw over my friend? Decisions. Goes back to what is a friend, right?
Yeah. For me, how I was playing is I helped everybody.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if someone asked me about information about someone, I'd give them the information, but I would tell the person I gave the information. You know what I mean?
Except for Cedra.
What?
Except for Cedra.
No, I told her information, and then I helped you get into the house, and then you were like, oh, never mind. I want to die. So.
Yes, good, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like like Juliana had Elena. And then I was telling Juliana stuff about Elena. And I was hinting at Elena. I was like, okay, don't do that. Oh, okay.
What
I would hint. But she ended up getting her, so it's okay.
That's
but
strange.
It wasn't my fault.
Yeah, it's a weird game.
Yeah. So I was just helping everyone. So no one could be mad at me.
Do you regret playing?
No. I think I had fun the first week. The first week I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's good. It was fun. I enjoyed myself the first week too.
Yeah, and
it
then
was
after
mostly just sitting, and I was like, Sparta.
No, cause like me and Kristen, oh my god, we're literally like, whenever we're together, it's so weird, cause we kind of turn into different people. Like our personalities like morph into each other. And
that would be an interesting.
It's so, oh my god,
I've never gotten that.
Oh my god,
I've
maybe
never gotten
not
that
in class,
experience.
but you should see us in like philosophy, and like we would like, dude, we like us in the car for like an hour and a half together.
Oh my god.
We were like, it was so much fun. Like I love hanging out with Kristen.
That's awesome. That's what it should be about. It should be about bringing people together. When I first got the list of all of the names, it was such a strange document to me. I was like, this is how groups work. This is where people decide who they're closest with.
Yeah, because I wasn't even like, cause I'm really good friends with Kristen, but at the beginning of the year we literally never talked ever, and then we were kind of just talking in philosophy, and I was like, hey, you want to be partners? She was like, oh yeah, sure. But we weren't like that close, and then we became hecka close like within that week. Yeah. Which is really interesting. Like she wouldn't have been like my top choice because like I have close like friends that are close. Like now, not really, but because I got so close with her. But it was very much like, this is weird, but it was fun. You know what I mean? That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. Gnarly. Wait, what do you guys like become? What? We became like hecka good friends. What do you become when you're together? Oh my gosh, dude. I don't know. It's just because our personalities are very similar. Because like I definitely you know that hyper side? So that kind of comes out, like it attaches to her hyper side. And then we just get like batshit crazy. You know what I mean?
What star sign is she?
Pisces. Her birthday is 2 days after mine.
So does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess.
For sure.
Yeah.
For
Oh
sure.
yeah, it does. That is funny because we have the exact same everything. Yeah, because our birthdays are so close. So she's a right? I guess I don't know. I don't really know much about astrology.
You don't?
No.
Okay, that's good. Because I was gonna ask. I was gonna say, is astrology something that you could freaking go on about for like
No.
another hour?
No.
But then yeah, astrology. It's like,
I know.
what are you, crazy?
I'm a Pisces and like a rising Sagittarius. That's all I know.
Cool.
Do you have co-star?
Universe. What?
Do you have co-star?
No.
Oh.
Do you have it?
Yeah. It gives me like daily fortunes or whatever.
Do you read them?
Yeah, because it gives you an alert. What was mine today?
Are they true?
Yeah, a lot of times people have to want to change. That was mine today. I don't know what that means. Maybe I'll find out.
Sounds cryptic.
Yeah. A lot of them are cryptic, but that's kind of fun because you can like see other people's signs and like other people's fortunes of the day.
Oh,
you can like add people on
the
it.
internet?
Yeah, you can add people on it.
Oh, jeez. Now we're getting cult-like, alright? Now we're getting into cults. Oh,
yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay. No more. Fiend. Any final word?
No.
Let's just make a word. What's your favorite word? Just
Kumquat.
Yell it.
Kumquat.